So in this video, we're going to look at dividing by 10, 100, and 1000. We're going to look at various different types of examples, including decimals, whole numbers. Also going to go on to looking at dividing by 20 and 400. This is quite a comprehensive video covering all sorts of examples you need to tackle exam questions. So the way my videos work, I'm going to do the example on the left. You're then going to press pause and have a go at the example on the right. So grab a pen, grab a piece of paper and work with me. So when you are dividing, you are hopping the decimal to the left. And if you're dividing by 10, you're hopping to the left once. So when a number doesn't have a decimal, the decimal is right on the end. Okay, so in this case, if I just use a different color, the decimal is right there on the end. Now, because we're dividing, we're hopping to the left. And because it's by 10, it's once, so this becomes 2.3. So hopefully you've pressed pause and had to go at this one, and the answer is 2.5. So remember, the decimal is there, and you hop to the left. Now, the reason I've put this example in here is because you might straight away know that 30 divided by 10 is 3. But what's important to know here is that the decimal, as I said, when there's no decimal, there's a decimal that sits at the end. And then we're hopping to the left once because we're dividing. And that becomes 3.0, which is the same as writing 3. And with this, the answer is 4. Again, we're hopping once to the left, and that's 4.0. So you can write, we don't tend to normally write 4.0, so we can just write this as 4. Both answers are fine. So now we've got 35. The decimal is right on the end. So there's a decimal there. We're going to hop once to the left because we're dividing by 10, and that becomes 3.5. So again, hopefully you've had a go at this, and you got 4.7. Now there is a decimal. So because we do have a decimal, we don't need to put one in. So we are hopping once to the left. That becomes 1.23. And again, here we are hopping one to the left, that is 2.47. And exact same thing here. Hopping once to the left, that's 3.52. And hopping once to the left, that's 3.48. And again, the exact same thing, hop once to the left, 2.254. And hop once to the left, 6.528. So hopefully you're getting the idea with this. Now with this example, it's slightly different. So when you hop to the left now, the decimal moves right to the front of all the numbers. When the decimal's right at the front, we add a 0. So we write this as 0.154. Again, we hop to the left. Now the decimal is right at the front of all the numbers, so we add a 0. So we write 0.528. So yep, exact same thing here. 0.423. And hop to the left, that's 0.764. And here we've got an example where there's already a 0 at the front, but we're going to follow the exact same technique we've been following so far, dividing by 10. So hop once to the left, decimal goes there, we add a 0 at the front, so that becomes 0.05. Okay, I've purposefully included this example because it can be confusing. So hop once to the left, the decimal goes there. Since the decimal is now at the start of all the numbers, we put a 0 there, so that becomes 0.06. And again, hop the decimal once to the left, the decimal goes there, we add a 0 to the front, so that becomes 0.0023. Again, hopefully you're pressing pause as you're doing this and attempting it on the right, so that becomes 0.0045. So here's some practice questions for you to try before we move on to dividing by 100 and 1000. So press pause and have a go. When you're ready, press play for the answers. Here are the answers. Mark your work. So moving on to dividing by 100. So the only difference now is there's 2 zeros, so that means we hop twice. So remember, when there's no decimal, there's a decimal at the end. We can put that in ourselves. We hop twice to the left, once, twice. That's 1.2. You can write it as 1.20 as well, but we normally tend to omit that 0 at the end. So both of these are fine. So this becomes 1.3 or 1.30. Again, the decimal's on the end when it's not given. So that's 2.34. Again, hop twice, 2.67. And remember what I said earlier, when you hop the decimals and the decimal ends up at the front, you add a 0. Okay, so when the decimal is at the front of all the numbers, we add a 0 in. Hop twice, that's 0.67. Same with these ones. And that becomes 0.32. And in this case, the decimal moves right between the numbers, so that becomes that. And we hop twice here, and that becomes 2.675. I'll skip this one because I think we've got enough practice there now. I'll skip that as well. Okay, we won't skip this one though. So now this one is an interesting one because you're hopping twice, but it's not just moving to the front once. So in this one, you really want to draw these lines on. You hop once, you're there. You hop twice, you're there. So your decimal is now here. Now we're going to put a 0 in this empty space. And because the decimal's right at the front of all the numbers, we're going to include a 0. So now this is going to become 0.0865. Now with this one, we're going to hop twice. 1, 2. The decimal is there. We're going to include a 0 in the empty space and a 0 at the front. So that's 0.0324. Again, we're going to practice another one of these. So we're going to hop once, twice. The decimal goes there. We put a 0 there and a 0 at the front. Okay, so hopefully you know why that 0 is there, because when the decimal is right at the front of all the numbers, we include a 0. So that's once, twice, decimal there, that's a 0 there and a 0 there, so that's 0.0233. So again, I've included this example on purpose because it can be a bit confusing when there's already a 0 at the start. So we're going to hop once, twice, the decimal is now there, we include a 0 there and a 0 there, that's 0.006, hop twice, once, twice, decimal there, 0 there and a 0 there, that's 0.008. And exact same with this, hop twice, 0 there and a 0 there, that's 0.0087. And hop twice, 0 there and a 0 there, that's 0.006. Now with this one, we're dividing by 1000 now. There's 3 zeros, so we're going to hop 3 times. The decimal is here, 1, 2, 3, that's 1.234. Again, the decimal is now there. When the decimal is not given, it's on the end. So hop 1, 2, 3 times, that's 3.564. So again, hop 3 times, the decimal is now right at the front, so we put a 0 in. And hop 3 times, the 0 is right at the front, and there we go. So again, this one can be a bit tricky because we're hopping to places that don't exist. So we are hopping once, twice, 3 times. Now that's where my decimal is going to go, right there. And there's 2 gaps there. I'm going to put a 0 in there, and it's going to start with a 0. So that's 0.002445. And similarly, hopefully you've had a go at this. Hop once, twice, 3 times. So my decimal goes there. The 2 gaps there get a 0, and there's a 0 at the front. So that's 0.007134. So here's some practice questions for you to have a go at before we move on to dividing by 20 and 400. So press pause and have a go. Here are the answers, mark your work. So dividing by 20. So when you're dividing by 20, it's the same as dividing by 10 and then dividing by 2. And we want to do it in this order, 10 and then 2, and not the other way around, not 2 and then 10. It's just easier to do it like this. And equally speaking, if you were dividing by 40, it's the same as dividing by 10 and then 4. And same if you're dividing by 90 or 80, it's the same as dividing by 10 and then 8. Now, we are using this 10 on purpose because I've shown you what you do with 10. With 10, all you do is you hop the decimal once. So rubbing some of this stuff off here. So if you look at this first one, we're dividing by 20, but we're going to take this approach. So we are first going to divide by 10 and then 2. So we are going to do 40, divide that by 10. That gives us the decimal once, that's 4. And now we're going to do 4, divide that by 2, and that is now 2. So hopefully you can see why we did that. It makes our life a lot easier because you know when you're dividing by 10, 100 or 1000, all you are doing is you're hopping the decimal. So we are doing 80, divide that by 10. That gives us 8.0. Now we don't need to write 8.0. It's the same as writing 8, so I'm just going to write 8 here. And then I'm doing 8 divided by 2, and that is going to give me 4. So now with this one, the number's a bit bigger, so you hopefully can see more clearly in this why we do it like this. So hop the decimal once, that becomes 42. You don't need to write the 0.0 again, it's just not needed. And then we have 42, divide that by 2, and we have 21. So hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go at this. Going to go a little bit quick here, so hopefully you're getting in the swing of things. That is 24. We now have 4, divide that by 10, and that gives us, we'll hop the decimal once to the left, that is 0.4, and half of 0.4 is 0.2, and here we have 1.4, hop the decimal one to the left, and that is 0.14, half of 14 is 7, so that's 0.07. Now looking at 400, so dividing by 400 is the same as dividing by 100 and then dividing by 2. So just to show you in this case, not 2, sorry, 4. I'm just going to show you in this case, even though we've normally gone with dividing by the 100 or the 10 or the 1000 first and then the 4, you can do it the other way around. So we could do 40 divided by 4, and that gives us 10. And then I could do 10 divided by 100, and that gives me 2 hops, and that is 0.1. Okay, we could have gone down that approach as well. It works too. But usually it's easier to go with the 100 first, because when you go with the 100 first, so for example, in this case, if you go with the 100, you don't really need to think much. All you need to do is hop the decimal twice. So I've hopped it twice, that gives me 0.8, and then I'm just dividing it by 4. Okay, 4 times 2 is 8, so I know that's going to be 0.2. So we have 440 here, and you can see, like, for example, in this case, if I was to divide by 4, now that's quite tricky. So probably don't want to do that. I want to divide that by 100, that gives me 4.4, and 4.4, divide that by 4. Now, 44, you can almost think of it as 44. 4 times 11 is 44, so that is 1.1. And again, hopefully you've pressed pause and had a go at this. That is 4.8. 4 times 12 is 48, so that is going to be 1.2. And one last example on this, so this one's more trickier. So 4 divided by 100, hop the decimal twice, that's 0.04. Okay, I'm going to rub that off here so it's not too confusing, but you hop the decimal twice, you get that. And now we are dividing 0.04 by 4. So that is going to be 0.01. And then we have 1.6, divide that by 100, hop the decimal twice, 0.016. And then we have 0.016, divide that by 4. 4 times 4 is 16, so that is going to be 0.04. So finally, here are the final self-practice questions. Press pause and have a go, and when you are ready, press play for the answer. Here are the answers, mark your work. And that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found that useful, I've got loads of other content like this on my YouTube channel. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.